Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Politics GC. Today, September 10th, about half an hour after the debate. We're giving you a pretty quick turnaround because we weren't able to do the live stream because of some technical difficulties. So, also forgive me if this video is a bit more laid back because we were expecting a live stream, and that's what we were promising you guys to deliver on. So, instead, this video is going to be a bit more relaxed and more conversational, like the live streams usually are. And so, getting straight into it, this debate was incredibly consequential going into it. We knew how pivotal it's going to be because the polls are extremely tight. I don't have to remind anyone here that these are all in a margin of error, 2-3% in margin of error. All the swing states incredibly close. This is an incredibly close election in every available metric. Even the New York Times Siena poll that came out on Sunday, that was incredibly devastating to the Harris campaign because so many people talked about how Trump was better on the economy. They trusted more on the economy, on immigration. They knew enough about him. They were confused about Harris. They distrusted Harris. And so this was very important to either see if Harris was able to turn around those perspectives or if Trump was able to place his own identity onto Harris, or if she was able to combat those fears. And so going into this debate, my expectations were that neither candidate was going to move the needle that much, that they were both going to be pretty mid, and that it wasn't from a dramatic point not going to give us many memes or notable moments, more lukewarm, if you will. But my expectations were far exceeded. Kamala Harris did a bit better than I expected, and Donald Trump did a lot worse. And this is something consistent that we're seeing throughout this campaign since like a month and a half, right? Since Biden dropped out of the race, Trump has had much more difficulty finding his footing against how he's going to be attacking this new opponent. And he's already wasted a month and a half. On this debate stage, he brought up President Biden multiple times to the point where Harris said, "I'm the one on this debate stage, not Biden, so how about we talk about me?" When it gets to that point, I think he and his staff and everyone needs to understand what's going on, and they need to really shift direction because the election is in less than 2 months. They don't have that much time. If we waste the time that he already did, then he's certainly going to lose in November. At least has a much higher chance of losing than if he were to put all his attention and energy into defeating Kamala Harris. So getting straight into what they talked about, Harris spent much more time attacking Trump than Trump did attacking her, a similar ratio to what we saw at the June debate, except inverse with Biden and Trump. As far as issues go, I think the lineup of issues is pretty favorable to Democrats with the economy. Obviously, no matter how much the Democrats try to weave things around the economy, is obviously going to be number one because that is the top issue on voters' minds, and the abortion coming in at a close second, again, much to the pleasure of Democrats, democracy near the top. And then things like the Israel-Hamas war or, race or other things lower down the list. And then comparing it further to the June performance by President Biden, I mean, Harris is obviously much better. I think that this is key for a few key reasons. Because, first of all, in 2020, Biden was able to win because of one key thing: voter turnout. People turned out to vote in numbers they hadn't in years because of all the turmoil that was going on in 2022. And prior to the June debate, and certainly after, before he dropped out, Biden was not bringing excitement and he was not giving that energy to the Democratic base or liberals in general to show up to the polls on November 5th. But now Harris is doing that. Harris is a much more lively candidate, as we can see, by how much longer she talked on each and every one of these issues. And some of them that she brought up that President Biden hadn't even discussed at the debate, right? And so she's much more successful orator, and she knows more what she's doing. Of course, she had her stumbles during the debate, quite a few actually, more than I was surprised to see. Obviously, she doesn't do that many live interview things because she doesn't want to be questioned. She wants to make sure that everything is pre-planned and perfect and, on the teleprompter. And so it's understandable from her perspective to be making the stumbles, but much more than any other presidential candidate that we had in a while, other than obviously the exception of the June debate from President Biden. But nevertheless, she is a much better candidate on all of these issues, talked about them with much more eloquency, and was overall a better opponent to President Trump. And then overall, pretty much same thing. And so going into what they actually talked about, I think Politico really summarizes it well, saying that, that wasn't the line I was looking for, but here, Harris gets under Trump's skin over and over. I think this was the key takeaway from this debate. From the beginning, Harris taunted him with his crowd sizes, right? His past bankruptcies, his inherited wealth. He talked about how he always talks about Hannibal Lecter at his rallies, and so he fell for the bait, and he wasn't supposed to. I'm sure his advisors told him to not get into these personal dilemmas and issues and things, but he did. He fell for it, and he shouldn't have. When the question of race was posed by the moderators, he initially said, I don't care. He tried to walk it back, but then was prompted a bit more and started blabbing about that some more, which is, again, a very bad moment for him. So over and over again, whenever you bait Donald Trump, he's going to probably fall for it if you insult him in some way or offend his crowd sizes or, God forbid, his golf game. So great on Kamala Harris for doing that and, setting out the bait for him, and bad on him for taking it, because this is very crucial, right? We talked about how he needs to really seize this opportunity to identify Kamala Harris in a way to the American people before she is able to do that for herself. And I think tonight was a great opportunity for her to identify herself to the American public, a public that 28% say that they need to learn more about her compared to the 8% for Donald Trump. And those 8% I think have been living under a rock for the past 10 years or something, that aren't aware about President Trump and all his, quirks and everything. But I digress. This debate was incredibly consequential and pivotal, and it comes out clear winner that, as Politico says, the clear winner was Harris, and it wasn't even close. And because of that, we see that Harris's team is calling for a second debate quite immediately. And if you had asked me prior, I thought that there was no chance that they were going to do a second debate. Why isn't this loading? Sorry. Because Harris has basically shut down every opportunity for an interview other than Dana Bash, but with every other media outlet, she doesn't want to do interviews because she knows she's not particularly skilled at them. However, she's called for a second debate. She wants a second debate, and even a fourth, with her campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, saying that she wants to debate starting in October more and more because she came out of this debate so victorious. She wants those extra boosts. She wants to taunt Donald Trump more into traps that he is very likely to fall into. Another news that came out of the debate. Oh, it's not here. Where is it? Okay, sorry. Taylor Swift has endorsed Kamala Harris for president. A lot of things have come out about her. People are wondering if she was going to endorse Biden or if she was going to come out of the DNC. But no, she waited for the debate night, which I think was very wise on her end, to at least see a bit of the candidate before making her final decision. And so there she is. And I don't know how much this is going to impact voters necessarily. It also matters how much she talks about this, whether this is just her one and done until November 5th, or if she makes it more of a thing or does an event with Kamala Harris or does something else. Then maybe we could see a bit of a boost. But otherwise, this is somewhat irrelevant. Just a nice pop culture moment to discuss, I guess. But going back into actually what they talked about and everything. So obviously, she won. I think it's very clear to most people. And what Trump really needs to do, let me give advice to both of the campaigns. First and foremost, Kamala Harris really needs to work on knowing how to answer the questions. I think she got one opportunity to really, and she really seized it, right? She really got the opportunity at one point to talk about her plan for America, how she's different. She said pretty much verbatim, I'm not Joe Biden, I'm not Donald Trump, I'm a new generation that's going to lead to more prosperity and differences, changes that America needs. But then she kind of stumbled and didn't do as well. And she didn't get out all the points that she needed to get out. And the entire time I was hitting myself. I was like, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan, they all could have ordered this so well. And she probably took 30 seconds to a minute talking about what she wanted to do for America, but wasn't able to convincingly and skillfully make out something that was going to really become a meme or become something that was clipped or something that people could really become, engaged and excited about. So she missed a lot of opportunities. And even though Donald Trump did incredibly bad, I don't think that he's going to do as bad for the rest of the debates if they have more. I think the Harris campaign got a bit too ahead of themselves. They're able to bait Trump. If there is another debate, which I don't see why Trump would agree to because he absolutely lost this one, but if there is another one, Trump's team is going to make absolutely sure that he does not mess things up, that he takes opportunities to say, catch her on her record and things. I think it was only at the very end of the debate where President Trump said, why haven't you done all the things you've already done? That was the very end, and he had the entire debate. No one's listening at the very end. Barely anyone listens to the whole 90 minutes, so why didn't he not start out with that or repeat that throughout the entire debate? Why haven't you done that already? You say you're going to do all these things. Why haven't you? Instead, he waited at the very end and only got that one line out in his closing statement, which made his closing statement very strong, but it made the rest of the debate weak, especially because he was just so off his game from the moment Harris baited him to the very end. So I think that was a massive failure on his part, his team. But I also doubt how much his team really has control over him. Donald Trump has said how he is not a toy of the establishment or about the deep state, and how he has his own mind and does whatever he wants to do. But overall, it seems like he's not listening to anyone at all and just wants to do whatever he wants to do, and that has not helped him, at least not in this circumstance. Yeah, I think this was a terrible night for former President Trump. He really needs to get on his game before he loses another debate to her. Also, the muted mics, just talking about that briefly, I think they really benefited Harris, even though they wanted to give Trump the opportunity to make a fool of himself. I think that benefited her just because she was able to, I think, make everything more concise, more wrapped up in a bow, and more effective with the muted mics. And even at times, Trump, came up and they turned his mic on for him. So I don't think it even impacted it all that much. And then one final note about the moderators. A lot of people have criticized David Muir for how much he really got engaged. I feel like Lindsay Davis didn't really get a word out. And at one point it felt like David Muir was getting more airtime than did Kamala Harris. Some people have criticized him for that, but of course I feel like that's his job as the moderator, is to fact check. And if you count the number of lies that Harris told versus the ones that Trump told many, many more. And so it only makes sense that they fact checked him more times. And also if they're talking about like favorability that the moderators had to Harris, there was one point where she wanted to get a point in, but Lindsay Davis cut her off and said, no, we're going to the president's question, and you have to stay put. So there was no favorability that strongly, in my opinion. Overall conclusions to take away from this debate: win for Harris, loss for Trump. Everything went well for Harris. There's still room for improvement, don't get me wrong. She still needs to polish up her rhetorical skills, how she answers some questions. She had some questions very down. Some others still need some polishing that she needs to memorize and stuff. And I get it, it's obviously very hard talking about so many issues so rapidly, but her team needs to prepare her a bit better for the next two debates and also give her fresh perspectives, because my only, worry from the perspective of the Harris campaign is that she's going to repeat the exact same points at the next debate, and she needs to come up with more points. She needs to view what she did today. She needs to watch it back, roll the clips, and see where she could have done better and bring out new points and new perspectives next time. Because otherwise there's really no point in doing a second debate if they're just going to both say the same thing. And also she needs to bait him again, because baiting him right at the beginning with the crowd sizes did wonders for her throughout the rest of the debate, because Donald Trump just could not respond. So yeah, that's our analysis on the presidential debate. We weren't expecting President Biden to drop out from the last one. Hopefully Trump does not drop out of this one, because then I think the entire political world would knock their heads off, but obviously it was not nearly as bad as was the Trump-Biden debate. That's it for tonight, and thanks for watching.